what's up, everybody? Welcome to According to CD. So, guys, we are going to be starting a new segment where I am going to be delving into my thoughts regarding some few topics that are taking place in South Africa. These are hot topics, and I hope you are going to lend me your ears. So, the first question that I keep getting asked about, or my thoughts about, is the whole saga that is happening with Miss South Africa Pageant.
Hello, South Africa. My name is Chidinma Vanessa Onwe Adechina. I'm 23 years old, all the way from Cape Town. I'm a Nepal player and an LLB law student.
So, guys, there is a young lady, I think she's 21 years old, who was born in South Africa, according to the reports. However, her parents are not South African. Her mother is a Mozambican national. However, the mother, from what we understand, she is a naturalized South African and married to a Nigerian man, whom I don't know what his status is, whether he's a legal foreigner or illegal foreigner. As we know, South Africa is engulfed with illegal immigrants in the country, which is causing all kinds of havoc. And the people of South Africa have taken to the streets on the internet and voicing their concern, their anger, as well as calling for this young lady to be removed from contesting for Miss South Africa. Now, one of the things that we need to understand, or at least how I understand things as an African, I find sometimes that we use this card when it suits us. There are things that we witness, and then they'll tell you this is un-African. But when it is concerning something else where this individual say that is not African, suddenly it is something to be looked over or swept under the carpet or something like that. For example, in African culture, let me speak for the Zulu culture. In the Zulu culture, when a man impregnates a woman and a child is born, that child does not belong to the mother's side or the maternity side. The child belongs to the father's side. That is according to the Zulu culture. Whether the parents are married or not. However, the law came in and said, if the father is not in the picture, therefore the child is going to belong to the mother's side, simply because there is no dumpster for a human being. Because the mother side cannot reject the child and say, well, since the father is not found, we're just going to dump this child in this dumpster. There is no such a thing for human beings, and therefore the mother will take over in bringing up this child in the absence of the father. I think even those that are religious, particularly Christians, somewhere in the Bible, it talks about a man will leave his parents' house, right, and take a wife. So now the irony and the part where this debate of Miss South Africa is, you have a Nigerian man who left his home in Nigeria, came to South Africa, impregnated, let's say, a South African woman, because from what I understand, this Mozambican lady was naturalized as a South African citizen. And the law says for your child to be a South African citizen, one of the parents must be a South African citizen, whether by birth or naturalization. So we understand that the Mozambican lady was naturalized and therefore she's a South African. Now, the man is not a South African. Now, in an African context, that is why the lady who is contesting for Miss South Africa, she uses none of South African names as well as a surname. Instead, she is using her father's name, and I'm talking the surname, simply because the father, I think it belongs to the Igbo tribe back in Nigeria or something. Probably they believe, or their culture and customs possibly similar to that of the Zulus, that a child must be called their father's surname, right? So she is of her father's surname in Nigeria, which that is African. So now that she's entered Miss South Africa, she belongs to South Africa. So I don't have an issue with that. If she's born of a woman that was naturalized as a South African citizen, by law, she is a South African citizen. I'm talking about I forgot how to call it. Chidinma. I think that's her name. Chidinma. Is it Chidinma? Yeah, Chidinma. She is a South African citizen. If her mother legally was naturalized by the Republic of South Africa as a South African citizen. However, though, where it gets South Africans going off the hinges is that her father is Nigerian. I'm not quite sure if because of the animosity between South Africans and Nigerians, that is why this girl is taking a hit, and people are being deaf deliberately of the fact that she is a South African citizen. So again, going back to African practices, she belongs to Nigeria because that's where her father comes from, even though she's born in South Africa. It's like Chidinma's mother married, like when a man marries a woman, it was the other way around, where now she's the one who brought the father and turned him into a South African citizen. When in fact, the father, the moment whether they married or impregnated each other, should have taken the child as well as the mother back to Nigeria. That is the African culture. But then again, I don't want to focus too much on this because for me, if the reports are right that she was born of a South African lady, then she's a South African girl according to the law. That's just how it is. And whether we like it or not, Miss South Africa says that they did follow due diligence, and as a result, she passed basically. Hence, she is contesting. Now, the part that is also upsetting for me personally is seeing Nigerians simply being disrespectful towards South Africans because of this. They are claiming her, not South, they are claiming her that she's a Nigerian girl who is going to take the crown from South Africans. And I'm thinking, but don't you see that you are doing her disfavor by doing this? You are agitating and upsetting South Africans even more. Now, the part that I want to say in my own thoughts is that if Chidinma really is a South African citizen and understand where South Africa comes from in history, unfortunately, she just have to be the sacrificial lamb for this and say, guys, I want my country to be united. I want my country to be in peace. And if I enter something like this, I would love my countrymen and women to support me. Because if she had to win the title, Miss South Africa, that means she's going to represent South Africa on a global stage, on Miss World, Miss Universe, Miss Supranational, all these other beauty contests or pageants that she's going to represent South Africa. And South Africans take our identity as South Africa very seriously. And for being a South African is not enough for us. Being a South African also means our values and cultures and customs and language and food and all of that stuff. It embodies who we are. From what I understand, Chidinma doesn't cook South African food, doesn't eat South African food. She doesn't even speak a South African language, which is something really, really shocking to me that not even Zulu, the most spoken language in South Africa, how do you then claim yourself to be a South African citizen? I don't know. There is so many questions but little answers, and I don't think we are ever going to get the answers that the people are seeking for. I saw even a petition that was signed by 14,000 South Africans to have her removed from the pageant. I was like, you know what, this is not going to happen, especially if due diligence was followed and indeed she's a South African citizen. There's nothing you can do about it. Whether her name is a Sitole or whatever the case might be, she is staying and she's going to contest. However, I feel that Miss South Africa pageant itself has the obligation and the responsibility to keep the peace in South Africa by asking her, listen, it's not going to work in our favor as South Africa to put you on a global stage where nobody is supporting you. Because I don't believe South Africans are going to support her like that. There will be those that will support her, especially those that have children with Nigerian men, because I feel like Chidinma's story is also their story, their children's story. And being rejected because their father is not South African, they have to fight this. But I think we are also fighting a very tiny little battle here in a teacup. There's a bigger one that I think if you really don't want children born of foreign parents, but the other parent is a South African citizen, put it in your law so that we don't find ourselves in a similar position as Ivory Coast found itself in the early 2000s, where the presidential candidates, one was a full Ivorian, the second one was half Ivorian and half Senegalese or something like that. And a civil war started because the half Ivorian and half Senegalese was actually winning the elections, or at least the prospect of him winning the elections angered the pure Ivorians, and a civil war broke out. Hundreds of thousands of people died because of that. And to prevent something like that, South Africa itself needs to come up with a solution. What do you say about children that are half South African and half other African nationality? Are going to allow them to contest for beauty pageants in South Africa? Are we going to allow them to run for president, for government? Are we going to allow them to become councillors in our communities? We have to come with a solution so that we don't keep finding ourselves in this position every time a half South African child runs for something that we honor, that we respect, that we find to be our identity, and then it comes and diluted by somebody else. That is a debate that needs to start so that you can create a law around that, because I understand in many other African countries, they are very, very straightforward about who can run for president. And if you are half that nation, you are not eligible to run for any office in that country. So maybe it's something that we also need to discuss. But I personally, as a person who's a constitutionalist and a Democrat, no, I don't belong to the DA, but my mind is very constitutional, and I believe that if you are born in this country, irrespective of who your parents are, as long as one of the parents is a South African citizen, and you are born in South Africa, you are a South African, and you deserve all the rights and privileges that South Africans enjoy. That child also should also enjoy. That's just my take on this one. But I think Miss South Africa pageant does have the responsibility to keep the peace by either, now that she made it on the top 11, so that means she's going to the finale, the stage where Miss South Africa is going to be chosen. Then they should eliminate her in the first five. Is it the first five? Yeah, the first five before the sixth remains. That way we can keep the peace. And then from there, let's create a law around who can enter Miss South Africa. And let's be clear about it so that we know that, oh, the other kids that are half South African know where they stand. It's unfair, but at least they will know where they stand. All right. So that is just my thoughts around this Chidinma story that is breaking the internet in South Africa. Is it fair, unfair? I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to talk against a whole lot of South Africans that feel like we are being fooled. But to be honest with you as well, it feels as though whenever South Africans cry about something, the world has a tendency of labeling us. They gaslight us. And the South Africans are not allowed to defend their sovereignty. The moment we defend our sovereignty, there is a label that is attached to us, one of xenophobia. There are other countries that are busy trying to get rid of illegal foreigners and other people that don't belong there. They are not labeled xenophobic. Somewhere, somehow, some people think that when we're dealing with South Africans, it's easy to mock them because, I don't know, maybe somebody told them that we're stupid. I don't know. But it is upsetting every time when South Africans want to cry about something that is legit and valid, we get gaslighted. Not only by the people in question, but also other parts of the world. And the same world is also busy chasing away and sometimes even harming illegal foreigners in their countries, and they are not labeled anything. That is unfair. South Africa is not the what do you call this? The United Nations. We have rule of law, and the rule of law must be followed by everybody, including anybody that crosses borders and coming into our country. So yeah, those are my thoughts when it comes to Miss South Africa pageant situation. Thank you for listening. Please do not leave this video without liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing. Ciao.